Wow, I almost forgot to do a video on optimizing this map until I loaded up an early version of it filled with barrels everywhere. Since optimization is like the most fun thing you can spend your time watching on YouTube, I've decided to do two parts on the topic. This one focuses on optimizing the map the proper way, and the second will be more interesting and will show me battling against all sorts of problems that arose because of this view and from me being stubborn. Oh, and I've just watched The Hobbit. Before adding detail, I spent a fair bit of time optimizing the map. In the past, I've preferred a more open map design because A, computers are capable of handling the source engine pretty well in this day and age. B, optimization throws up all sorts of problems, as well as limiting how you can detail your level. And C, grenades can no longer be chucked across the whole level because they shall not pass the skybox, and you can't take screenshots of the map from interesting, high up or far off angles. Optimization is one of those things that I've heard so many horror stories about and have had so many difficulties with in the past, with both my maps and maps that I've tried to fix, that I have built up a sixth sense knowing when problems will arise and advise people to just use an open skybox unless I feel that they're skilled enough and patient enough to benefit from the enclosed method. If that sounds mean, see how you feel after these two videos. Despite all this, I settled on an enclosed, super optimized method for this map, both for the challenge and for the FPS benefits that it would give me. It would also help me to walk away from the project knowing that I had learned a thing or two and had tried something different. To check my optimization, I did the barrel challenge. By placing barrels all over my level, then by turning on wireframe, I can see which barrels are being rendered. This simulates items within the level and is a good indicator of where further optimization is needed. I compiled my map at this stage twice, once with Viz set to fast and once with normal. Viz calculates what can be seen and where from within a split second, but does a terrible job. Normal takes much longer but delivers a better result. I wasn't happy with either, so I added hints and area portals all over my map, which suggested the computer good places to optimize from. I also normalized the height of the walls for the next stage. It is very hard to get around optimization without trying it yourself, and I mean that. All I can do is to give you examples and demonstrations of the differences, but without trying it yourself, you won't know what is causing them. Anyway, these hint blocks are a nightmare to work with. They get in the way of you selecting things and also slow down Hammer greatly, which is somewhat ironic. So I ended up grouping them together and saving them to another file. At the end, when I'm to compile the map for the last time, I'll paste it back into my map and line them up again. In short, at this stage I'm optimizing my map, then forgetting about it until the end when I'm to compile a version that people will ultimately end up seeing. And playing. Maybe. So why not wait until the end to do this optimization? Well, before there's detail in your map, you can more easily change things. In some areas, I lowered the ceilings and adjusted doorways to improve the optimization. Also, by adding hints all over the map, it helps familiarize yourself with the optimization for your own map, so you don't do something stupid later on when detailing it. For instance, this wall is important for hiding all of the detail in the bomb site behind. If I was to replace it with an open window, it would render the entire bomb site right up to CT spawn, something I don't want to have happening, since there is already a fair bit visible from CT spawn, giving counter-terrorists a low frame rate when they don't really want or need it. The next stage was to make the map a series of rooms with sky textures on the ceiling, instead of a large open area. I didn't close the skybox up until later on. While things are still changing and moving about, I don't see the point in wasting time adding skyboxes around each part of your map, only to have to remake them every time it changes. This is one of the reasons that I recommend just making a hollow box around your level. It's not too hard to close it up provided you make the map tidily and place solid blocks under your displacements. I used a large open skybox in this level, then waited until I had added the tower, large brushes and buildings around my map, before closing the map up and focusing on the smaller things. You could say that I should have waited for this stage before adding the hints and stuff in, but the layout of the map didn't change after I added those. Only the vertical height of some things, and the items that were above the wall height within the level anyway. Closing the skybox up reduces the time Viz takes to compile on normal. Despite all this, when testing my map for graphical purposes, I would still just set it to fast. It would save about 3 minutes every time I compiled. Doesn't sound like much, but over the course of days and weeks it would save hours. Imagine what you could do with a couple of extra hours before a deadline. And that concludes part 1. Sounds simple, doesn't it?